Well, survived the hurricane, and now I am back to do this review. No. No, I'm not going to do a floating relating to surviving a hurricane joke. No! Anyway, yeah, so I got delayed a bit, but I was finally able to get around to seeing it. I know I'm a bit late to the game. I know all the other reviews have been out, but you know what? I could not wait to do a review of this one. A lot of this has to do with the fact that it was a movie. I, like a lot of other kids who remember the miniseries when it came out, I guess sometime in late 80s, early 90s, something like that. And I remember being profoundly traumatized by it. I remember the novelty of watching that film was, a lot of it was because of the fact that it was a horror movie, for all intents and purposes, but it was on TV. So at that time, if it was on TV, like regular TV, not HBO or Cinemax or anything like that, that meant this was a movie that your parents would actually let you watch because it's on TV. What harm could it do? Oh, it did harm. There's actually guilds of clowns right now actually trying to sue this movie, and they even took issue with the last one because of it breeding coulrophobia, I believe it's called. So I can't blame it, because admittedly it did kind of sow the seeds of it for me, but there's more profound issues down the line that led to my hatred of clowns. This movie didn't help either. But fortunately, the other reason I'm going to say this movie worked was the fact that beyond Pennywise the Clown, this film, I get the vibe, really mined the potential of the novel. Now, I'm not going to go around saying I read the book. You've seen the book. It's yay thick. It took me about 6 months apiece to finish each of the Lord of the Rings, so forget it. Forget it. No. So it goes without saying, I'm not really going to take the time to compare one or the other. That's what Cinefix is for. What I'm going to do is actually compare more to the original miniseries versus this, because I'm going to say beyond a shadow of a doubt, watching this film, I could definitely say, because I went back and revisited the miniseries recently, and yeah, I can definitely say the movie did not age well. You can tell being on TV, it reined back the story of what it potentially could have been. This movie has no such boundaries. No such boundaries. Matter of fact, one of the things I will say I'm loving that we're getting back to, even though I'll say the 80s nostalgia is kind of getting a little grating, the one thing I can actually say now is at least we're utilizing some aspects of it. In particular, anything when we do stories involving kids in genuine peril, I like that we're actually seeing kids in peril to the point we're not lying to kids saying that, yeah, things are dangerous out there. We need to at least tell kids, be cautious, be prepared, and stick together. You know, keep your friends close. And that's a good message. It's saying, you know, keep your friends close. Don't be afraid to be with your friends, because they're the ones who are going to stand by you when things go wrong. And that's actually a very strong moral. And yes, the miniseries had this moral, but this one I feel really mined it to its full potential. But not just that. Now, while Pennywise and Bill Skarsgård in his performance is utterly chilling and very effective, and I gotta say, Andy Muschietti, I believe the director's name is, he was able to mine the potential of it beyond not just the presence of Pennywise as a character himself, but of the idea of what it is. The idea that it's not just about the clown itself, it's about the manifestation of fear and what it does to everyone around you. It's the idea of what fear can do to you. And one can even surmise that these were themes that Stephen King himself created in, let's say, The Mist, where it was the idea of what fear does to people psychologically and what it does to them on a different level. In that one, it was how violent it can make people. Well, this one, it's about how vulnerable it can make people. And it's brilliant that this story starts off with kids. The great thing also about this is, and it's a very wise move, the book is, as I said before, nearly 1,200 pages. So it's good that they're cutting this in half and focusing entirely on the kids in the first go. And what a cast of kids, man. We are living in the age where kids, I don't know what acting coach they're getting at that young age, but man, are these kids incredible. One of them, of course, was the one I was most excited about, Finn Wolfhard, who most people know and love from Stranger Things. Here is playing a completely different character. He's playing Richie, who in the original film was played by Seth Green. So it was a complete left turn from his character in Stranger Things. So it was great seeing him stretch his acting muscles on a different type of character. But the entire cast of kids are absolutely razor sharp. There's not a dull performance in the bunch. And the writing, once again, we're living in a time now where it seems like kids are being well written as well. One could probably surmise that the people who are screenwriters nowadays were kids in the 80s, so they seem to know how to channel their inner child to be able to write kids perfectly this time around. And because they had no fear of exposing kids to this kind of peril, the fear felt more genuine. I was actually uneasy because I was seeing these kids in actual life-threatening scenarios. And these kids don't walk away clean a lot of times. Some kids get broken bones. By the way, there was a scene where a kid nearly gets his face bitten off. I'm not going to tell you which one. I'm going to try my best. But by and large, this blows the miniseries out of the water for multiple reasons. And a lot of it is because it is completely devoid of restraint. And that was the beauty of it being an R-rated film, and I'm really happy. In retrospect, I'm happy I'm doing this late because it's great seeing that this movie is doing so well because of, pure and simple, because of good word of mouth. And yeah, admittedly, strong nostalgia helps, but this is what happens when good material is, when they mine it for the emotional core and they bring it out to the surface. And it's been confirmed that they're going to go ahead and do part 2, which is going to involve them all when they're adults. Now, on one side, I'm sad because we're not going to really get to see as much of the kids in the previous one, but it also, I'm excited because this director did such a good job on this portion of it. I'm excited to see what he's going to do to potentially make that second half better. And another thing that works is that they also set up a lot of things which they alluded to, and it was much to the detriment of the miniseries, but here it was much better, where they allude to a lot more things, specifically the idea that there is a town-wide conspiracy. You see it in all the adult actors, you see it in their face, that they know something's amiss in Derry, and how each of them respond to it differently. Like Eddie's mother, you get the vibe, whereas the previous film, it was just you felt it was a Norma Bates situation. Here, you get the vibe that she actually knows that there's something really bad going on, and her only way to protect Eddie is this. And you have other parents who are acting in it in their own way. And I was seeing all of it writ large, but yet conveyed through good visual storytelling, but also really strong writing that made this movie work. You're going to get some of the jump scares, but you can tell how bad a horror movie is when they pretty much rely on that dominantly, and also on the fear of pain. Just cheap tactics. This one didn't resort to that. It stuck with the dread factor. Because one thing that works for me with horror films is I'm all about atmosphere, and I'm all about the escalating sense of dread as the scenes progress. There's room for levity, there's room for drama, there's room for a lot of things. This is a very multifaceted story. I mean, it's no surprise to me that many people consider this one of Stephen King's best works. I can definitely understand why people hold this one so close to their hearts, and why people were very timid about this adaptation. I was a bit more open-minded because I felt that there was room for improvement based on what was done before in the miniseries. So when I'm left walking out of this with this wonderful sense of anticipation of what they're going to do for the next film, that means this film was a bona fide success. I, for the life of me, can't really think of anything genuinely wrong with it, and I think many reasons why is because of the prior film, and because I've already seen it at a kind of a lesser form, that I'm seeing this just so much more improved. So I'm sure probably down the line, maybe upon retrospect, I may be able to find some kind of caveat with it. And it's also great this film came out when it came out, September 8th, right when we're kicking in on the Halloween season. So this really is getting me fired up. This, next to Horror Story kicking off again, Halloween Horror Nights is also starting off. So I'm feeling in the Halloween spirit right now. If you love Stephen King and you love the book, I can't imagine you being enraged by this film. If you love the miniseries, you are probably really going to love this movie. If you are so loyal to Tim Curry, I can get behind that. Tim Curry's amazing. But don't write off Bill Skarsgård. What he is doing is so lends more to the story. He doesn't feel like he's hamming it up like many times you could feel Tim Curry was. This time, he feels genuinely threatening. But when the time comes when he's going to try and pander to the kids, like the opening scene with him and Georgie, there are so many levels to the way he conveys that scene that it plays a lot better. There's levels to this version of Pennywise, and I'm going to hands down say it's a vastly superior iteration of it. I can't really think of anything more to praise this movie, so I'm just going to wrap it up by giving it a perfect narcotic casserole rating of... Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you feel this film pales comparison to the miniseries? Do you feel this film is still not the perfect adaptation of the book that you would like to see? Leave it there, comments below, and for more addictive content on Narcotic Casserole, simply like, share, subscribe. Click, and thou shalt be served. Yeah, Hurricane Irma was pretty bad. Definitely, if whatever... I mean, we got out of it okay, but I know a lot of other people, particularly on the west coast of Florida, did not. So anytime you see anything related to charities or anything like, or in aid of them, please, love of God, donate, please. Stuff got pretty bad out in Orlando, but it probably is a lot worse on the west coast. So please keep your eyes open in case there's any kind of opportunities you can to support and aid of them. In the meantime, the next feature we got on Narcotic Casserole, yes, I keep saying we're going to have 2 episodes of Cinema Schlock Society, but once again, Hurricane Irma interfered with my editor and his finishing of those. Meanwhile, the next thing we have going on is that we have our next edition of Close Examinations, where I'm going to voice my very controversial opinion regarding Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So, keep it here.